time for another little vlog. I don't know how long this vlog is going to take, but it's one of the last major projects I wanted to do for the season, and it has to do with the ship's wheel. This thing's just about 10 years old, and other than replacing the motors on it a couple of times until I found the right one, I really haven't done very much to it. Still pretty much looks the same. And we're noticing when I have the outriggers, the long parts that stick off to the side on either side and the tower are starting to get really rickety. You know, they want to wobble back and forth. It's not steady like it used to be. And that's from being taken apart and moved and everything else. I've also, a couple of handles are broken off the ship's wheel. The others are getting loose and I've had to re-glue them back in. The whole thing just needs to be refurbished. So I figured now would be a good time to do it because I have the time. I've got just about a month before we start setup. Just a little over a month. And the project shouldn't take that long, a couple of weeks at the most. Sooner probably. But we are going to totally disassemble this. The tower here where the motor is and where everything attaches onto is getting really rickety, so I'm going to take that all apart. We're going to redo the base, put a different base on it. Then the brown wood trim around the outside of it there is just a shell. You know, it just fits over to hide the mechanisms and stuff. We're going to take that off, get it sanded down. It's going to get restained. Ship's wheel, we're going to cut all the handles off, redo the handles, and get that cleaned up, stripped, and redone. You know, same thing with the outriggers. The outriggers are probably about the biggest piece because there's a lot of pieces to it actually. See, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9 pieces to that. And I need to break it down, sand everything down, get everything cleaned up. And we're just going to go from there. We'll give it a restaining. We're probably going to redo the skulls on it. You know, just kind of freshen it up a little bit for this year's hunt. And it's something you know, it's been needing to be done for ages now. And since I've got the time, I'm going to do it now. So hold on. I don't know how far I'm going to get on it today. Probably not all that far. Today's one of my lazy days. I went down at, God, what was it? 2 o'clock. I took Kaylee for a walk early, sat down to eat lunch, and it's almost 5 o'clock now. I've just been sitting there spacing out on TV. I've been in no rush to get out here to work on this, and it's like, I've got it torn apart, it's out here in the shop, I need to get started on it. So I'm out here, we're going to get started on it and see where we go. Get to. That's what's left of the ship's wheel. The base, the main mast, the motor, and the drive assembly for it. Now, I've got this set up to take a power adapter or be hooked directly up to my power station if I want to run it off the power station. It goes into a PMW, which is a pulse width modulator. And it lets me set the speed of the windshield wiper motor without losing any of the torque. So I can literally attach the wheel here and have it whipping around extremely fast, or have it do it just at a slow crawl if I want. And then we go from the motor and the linkage, which is fairly simple and straightforward. With this piece here, the motor, the linkage, and this 2x4, everything's attached to, is being kept. The bottom plate and that nipple that's on here are all going bye-bye. We are going to redo the base. This is the original base I came up with for the windshield, or for the ship's wheel. And it's about 10 years old. I've had that ship's wheel for about 10 years now, roughly. And it needs to be replaced. The nipple we're not going to use. What we had the nipple on there for was originally we had a pirate skelly. that stood behind the wheel. And put the nipple on there. We put a PVC pipe over the top of it that we could zip tie the skelly to. We don't use that anymore. So that could come off. We'll get rid of a tripping hazard. And we're going to shorten up the base. 1 year I had it in. I had something over there that was interfering, so I cut a notch in it. I'm sitting here looking at it. I should just cut that all the way off. But since we're going to put new plywood on there, we're just going to cut the new piece out that size. And we'll swap this over to the new piece. Now as to the rest of the ship's wheel, all the pickets and everything that were on the outriggers that went, off to the sides, right there. They're sanded, they're ready for staining. Over here we got the main mast that the outriggers attached to, and a couple of pieces off the outriggers and the ship's wheel itself. Well, I've gone over most of it. There are spots, like on these here, the round parts. My sander really doesn't do a really good job with those. So, I went and bought some Jasco Premium Paint and Epoxy Remover. And we are going to go over all the pieces and strip them, give them a light sanding with some steel wool, let them dry. And then before I start reassembling any of this, I'm going to stain all the parts independently. And then once they're all dry, we will get going and putting this back together. And it has been, I know I'm dripping, several days because of the heat. Today it only got up to 95, which felt kind of nice. I've been out here 4 or 5 times. Go in the house, sit for an hour, come back out, work about another half-hour. The first outrigger, the first piece that sticks off to the side on this, took me 3 days to get done. Today, it's cool enough. I got the second one done in 1 day, plus 2 parts off of the outrigger on this side. And then we got the mast off. And I gave it a rough sanding. It's going to get a little bit of stripping fluid here and there too. So I made way more progress today than I have in the last couple of days. But for right now, I'm going back in the house and cooling off. And then might come back out after dinner and we'll start stripping the ship's wheel. Not me. No one wants to see that. Though I can think of 2 that might. Anyway, that's a different story. But anyway, we're going to get started on the stripping. It might take a day or 2. And then we're going to go back through and we're going to get everything re-stained with the new staining color I picked out. And we'll just kind of keep going from there. And I'll give you a little highlight. We are making some good progress on this project. Heat wave is for the most part done. It's still getting up into the upper 80s, low 90s, but we're out of the triple digits. And most of this week is going to be mid to upper 80s. So I've been out here a lot longer. We've got the ship's wheel all torn apart. And I've got it all stained. I also went through yesterday and got the mast. This part here, this fits over here. But I got that done. New bottom on it. We got it tightened up so it's nice, more sturdy. Right now, I am working on the light here. That goes for that skull so it lights up. I ended up having to snip it in order to get it off. Now I've got to resolder that part to this part, the plug-in. I got to solder this back together. And once it's resoldered back together, I can get this back on here, get mounted, and we'll have this section reassembled and done. I then have to take these, and these, and get them all put together. Those are the outriggers for the ship's wheel that stick off the sides on each side. Gotta get those assembled. We're basically into assembly work. Once everything's assembled, then we got to come back through and start doing all our detail work. But today's goal, and it should be fairly easy to do and fairly quick, I just got to get everything reassembled. Once it's all assembled, the bling and decorating will be a lot easier and quicker. Okie dokie, staining's done. We got all the parts and pieces put back together. Next step is detail work, and then we are done. Now on the old version of this, I had a giant skull here, and then skulls, little skulls going out on the handles, and I had a couple giant skulls and smaller skulls on the outriggers. I'm out of the big skulls, but I do have a bunch of smaller skulls with some gems. And I figure what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a combination of red, blue, and green to do the detail work on here. And all of these are just applied with hot glue. So I just get to sit down and burn my fingers with hot glue. Okay, we are done. The ship's wheel has been totally refurbished. I just got done doing this last part. It's one of the outriggers. We went and redid the case, redid the ship's wheel, and we redid both of the outriggers. Outriggers are the parts that stick off the side of the base. I figure outriggers is the best word for it. So now, the next thing, the last thing I really need to do, because I'm curious, and I'm sure some of you guys, or a few of you guys might be curious, I want to see what it looks like all put together. So I'm going to take all the parts out onto the patio. We're going to get them assembled and get a look at, and I'll give you guys a glimpse of that. But while we're doing that, before I do that, I need to get cleaned up in here. The shop is a mess. Well, the shop isn't cleaned yet. You guys don't need to see my shop clean or dirty. You've gotten glimpses of that during setup and on other projects. But I did want to show you the ship's wheel. And no, I do not have it turned on. I do feel like running electrical out here to turn the wheel on and turn that skull on. The skull lights up. But there you go, the new and improved ship's wheel for this year. And this was semi-easy prop to redo. I know when I first built it, it took me 3-4 weeks to do it, because I was having to play around with the mechanics for the mech that runs the wheel, and I'm doing testing and everything. But didn't have to do that, so that saved a lot of time. But anyway, there's your new ship's wheel. And that brings this vlog to a close. Now, before I do the closing, normal closing with the catchphrase, I do want to say one thing. I'm going to be doing a short announcement vlog here in a couple of days, highlighting what we are going to be working on and what's coming up as far as builds. Going to be two different vlogs, or I should say one vlog and one series, because there'll be multiple vlogs in that. But we'll be talking about that in an announcement vlog. So stay tuned here in a couple of days, and within a couple of days, and we'll have that vlog up for you. Until then, stay spooky, stay toxic.